Jeremiyah Love could go on to be a higher sought-after NFL draft prospect than Ashton Genty. Stay tuned to find out why NFL teams are clamoring to get him a part of their backfield. Jeremiyah Love is the most dynamic offensive weapon that Notre Dame has had in over 30 years. And that's saying a lot with all the talented players that have come through South Bend. Ryan, what do fans need to know about this kid that really made a name for himself down the stretch last season?
They just haven't had a player like this, Joe, maybe in my lifetime. Like, it's been that long that Notre Dame has had a dynamic weapon like this, a player that can legitimately affect and break open a football game in the run and the pass game while also being 210 plus pounds. We've seen good running backs. They've had Kyron Williams. They've had Aldrick Estime. Working back, they've had Darius Walker. They've had Sierra Wood. They've had some really good running backs historically for this program, even just since the turn of the century. But they haven't had a kid that could legitimately play wide receiver for a college team, that could play running back, that can create big plays, that can turn out the short yardage. This kid is the best all-around weapon that I can remember playing for Notre Dame.
Going from freshman to sophomore year, there was an increased expectation for what Jeremiyah Love not only was going to do production-wise, but deployment-wise. I think that now that Mike Denbrock has had a second season to work with him, there is this chance to see Jeremiyah Love take an even bigger leap forward. You just talked about the physicals. I'll sum it up perfectly here. I think that he reminds me a ton of Darren McFadden. Darren McFadden was extremely productive for Arkansas in that offense that had a lot of other guys that were able to take some of the load off of his shoulders, and he still managed to be completely dominant for the Razorbacks. I see that for Jeremiyah Love. The speed, the size, and the willingness to be physical, despite being described as just this burner. He has a lot of plays on film, Ryan, where he's blasting through players. He is running through blockers. He will lower his shoulder, which is something that I think a lot of people don't even realize.
It's really fun to think back to that Razorback team because you had 2 first-round running backs in Darren McFadden and Felix Jones, and yet Peyton Hillis was the one that made a Madden cover, which is just hilarious to think about. But, thinking about Jeremiyah Love, Joe, the improvement that we saw from a power perspective from 2023 to 2024 was awesome. I mean, you think about the Penn State run that he had where he willed himself through 4 Penn State players that included Abdul Carter, who just went top 3 in the 2025 NFL draft and was able to hit into the end zone. So he has the short yardage ability that it continues to improve, but make no mistake about it, man. This is now listed at 214-pound running back that has a legitimate 10,500 meter speed coming out of high school. He was a high school sprinting champion, 100-meter in the state of Missouri. This kid has big-time speed. He gets up to the top speed in a hurry. He's got great acceleration. He's got good short area burst. This is by all levels and all variables that you can measure, this is an elite-level athlete from the running back position.
Yeah, there's a reason why he's already leading this discussion as RB1. If we were just to identify maybe some of the weaknesses, there's really not a ton. I think that the one that always comes to the forefront anytime we talk about a running back, the injury history. He was a little bit banged up in different spurts last year. He's also been banged up in the spring of 2025. So that is something that is going to come to our attention. And then the other part, like these are 2 things that almost have nothing to do with his actual skill set, but the 2 things that I noted, is there him having limited touches at Notre Dame and splitting time and still getting hurt? Does that also create a little bit of an extended concern that he's not a 30-plus touch guy who's gotten banged up? He is a little more closer to 20, and he still suffered injuries.
Yeah, I mean, I think durability is always a thing that you're going to talk about the running back position. I think the two biggest things that are semi-related is one, I think that he runs a little bit high. He's a high-cut dude, so like he plays a little bit high just naturally. And I think the other thing is that he's so explosive, right? Like he's trying to hit home runs all the time. I do think that there's a lack of patience at times. Like there's some times where I'm like, okay, stay in the hole, let it process a little bit, work through traffic, and he just wants to kind of bounce everything outside right now a little bit too often. So I just think a little bit more patience needs to be injected in his game, needs to run with a little bit better pad level because there's certainly power profile there. If he runs a little better of a lower center of gravity, I do think that power profile can even shine through more.
Digging into his background really quick before we close out, he was a former 4-star coming from St. Louis, Missouri per 247 Sports. He was the number 5 ranked running back for the 247 Sports composite ranking, the 79th ranked overall prospect, and the 2nd highest rated player in the state of Missouri. He was a very big get for Notre Dame. And again, there was a lot of hope, high expectations for what he was going to do for the Fighting Irish. And he has, frankly, exceeded them. He is not your typical 4-star. He has really played to the potential of what we put on the expectations for a lot of 5-star guys.
I remember when Notre Dame first offered him, he was only viewed as a 3-star player after his junior season. And then quickly, he erupted on the recruiting trail, and schools like Oregon and Texas A&M and some other prominent programs were going hard after Jeremiyah Love, Christian Brothers in the state of Missouri. Ends up being a consensus top 100 player by all of the major recruiting platforms, and you see why, ultimately. If you go back and watch his film at Christian Brothers, he was a multi-time state champion. He was also a big-time sprinter in high school. He really erupted in the recruiting space and became one of the better running backs in the 2023 recruiting class.
Folks, let us know in the comments below. What do you think of Jeremiyah Love? What NFL team would you like to see him play for? Hit that like button and subscribe. We'll talk to you later.